I'm Oliver Fuseli. I'm the managing director of Great Guns USA, and this is Addison Capper. He's the editor of Little Black Book, and we just really want to thank you guys for taking the time to join us.
LBB and Great Guns USA launched this actually pretty much to the day 1 year ago, and I think this is our 12th panel we've done. And the aim was to try and do something a little bit different and ask people some questions that were maybe a little bit less about work and more kind of personal and maybe a bit more fun and thoughtful.
Just to piggyback on that, we also thought knowing a little bit about who you guys were from a personal perspective, I think people want to know that. And we all know that once we start talking about our personal life, everything circles back to work, right? So there is going to be some kind of, probably connection to that thing. But in any event, we're going to start right now, and I'm going to introduce our guest. And our first guest, I'm just going to sing singing and driving, playing the drums. What could be better than taking a nap? Drive a friend home, stop for a snack, things you can do using an app. Don't send emojis, go give your mom a hug. I think that's from somebody by the name of Joaquin. Molla, he's the founder and chief creative officer of the community in Miami, Florida. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Here we are.
I love that Volkswagen spot. So I think being in business for 30 years, what else could be said, right? So I went into your Instagram post, and I think you love art, but are you an expert?
It's funny because you said before that personal life and the industry, but I'm a writer. So I write and I always was a copywriter. So my background is writing. And then I was partnering with art directors all the time when I was a team, and I could see how creative directors that come from writing were horrible at helping art directors to be better. They didn't have a clue on balance, a clue on colors, a clue. And I was 23, I think. And I said, I don't want to be one of those creative directors that just every art director hates because they come from a writing background. So I started to paint with a teacher, Carlos Baragli, a very good friend of mine now, just to be a better creative director for art directors. And then I found out that I love it, and I have been doing it for 25 years. I found it in the most unexpected way. And in a way, I don't know, I think we are so attached to briefs. I allow myself to be completely spontaneous. I don't care about anything, even if somebody's going to like it or not. So it's a kind of a therapy too.
I also saw in your Instagram post that you have a lot of photographs of telephone poles or electrical lines. And it seems like one of them I may have seen up. Is there any significance to or symbolism to that?
Yeah, I create this account that is obsessively framed. It's a bit depressing maybe, but I was out of my studio too many hours, and then I found out that I could take advantage of the trips. I mean, I fly a lot, as you can imagine, having 5 offices around. And then I found that little recess in my life where I go from the office walking to the Verizon offices, and then I see all those things, and it helps to separate my mind from the actual problem I'm trying to solve. So I start to take those photos, and it has been 7 years. It makes me be more present in a way, and finding the beauty on everyday stupid things, right? Again, another part of my therapy.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much, Joaquin. I'm going to go to our next guest, and that is Kim Getty, CEO of Deutsch LA. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a fun conversation.
I know in your LinkedIn, you say that you're a proud mom of 2 daughters, but you're also a struggling surfer. You got to tell me about this.
The underlined word in that is struggling. I think that's deserves more emphasis than surfer. I like to be outside. I like to sort of do things that push me outside of my comfort zone. I have sort of a personal credo, which is anything worth doing is worth doing badly. And I think that sort of informs surfing. So, no, it doesn't happen a lot in LA, but the majority of our vacations as a family sort of take us to places that are welcoming to folks that are sort of beginners in the sport. Santa Teresa in Costa Rica is my favorite place on the planet. I get a ton of reward from sort of like stepping away from work and being with my family and just doing stuff that is kind of takes you out of your head and puts you in a different place. So it's just like getting into spaces where you're kind of focused on something new.
In 2015, I think you did an interview with Fortune, and you actually talked about not believing in work-life balance, which I thought was very interesting.
I think if I remember that, and that's, you reach deep.
I'm going to go even deeper in a minute.
Oh God. I think that the point I was making there is that it sort of sets up an impossible place to be. And I think that it's really not fair to create these intangible, hey, it's got to look exactly like this to be successful. And the way that our life has kind of evolved and my life has evolved is saying, hey, you can kind of bring the things from work that kind of inspire you and teach you and help you grow into your personal life, and vice versa. I will say a funny reminder of that, because I just took an Uber last night, was that for whatever reason, I still have like my home address as work and my office address is home when I set up my Uber. So somehow, I mean, like that's turned out maybe to be more prescient in the last 2 years, but that wasn't the intention at the time.
That's interesting. Well, also you said that about your dad, and I know he passed away early in your life, but you said that he created space for life. And as a construction worker, do you see a connection between what you're doing helming Deutsch, offering the space for life to create the amazing achievements, you know, that he created for life, or the space for life? Do you see any connection to that?
That's deep. Yeah, I mean, I think there's very real connection there. If you think about what brilliant person said, we create our buildings and after that they make us. Was that Winston Churchill who said that maybe?
It may we'll find out, but I think it was. Yes, great.
Okay, but I think that there's something to that in sort of, you know, creating a space where life then happens, and how can you manifest that in a way that has meaning and beauty and value. And I think that if you look at the work that we all do, I think that when we're at our very best, we're doing the same thing.
Really well said. I love that. Just a couple of other things with you, Kim. Does the 2011, I think the butler and the chef in San Francisco, did you remember an interview there or something? I don't know what happened there.
I had a really interesting interview when I was going to work at the Kirschenbaum office of San Francisco, which does not exist anymore.
Right.
And it was before 2011. But the person running the office at the time, instead of sort of having an interview, said, let's go sit on the lawn in South Park. And if any of you know South Park in San Francisco, it's a really beautiful sort of creative community right outside of Butler and the Chef. And he pulled out a piece of paper and he said, I'll show you. He said, most people think they're going to learn this way, but actually you learn this way. And the vertical lines were this way and the horizontal lines were this way. And he said, this is what I'm going to create for you. This is how you're going to grow and learn. You're going to be fully immersed in all of the dimensions that are important to our agency and to our business. And you're going to develop all of those skills. I was like, great, I'm in. And that, I mean, it was so it's such a different thing from, you know, when you're interviewing for an account supervisor job to say, oh, you know, like, oh, you're going to have this great team. It's like, no, this entire company is going to be a learning opportunity and a growing opportunity for you. And I think that that's something that has sort of stuck with me too, is that is how we have created, I think, a really great community within Deutsch LA. It's like everyone's creative, everyone's expected to show up with ideas, and everyone is sort of charged with helping one another in accomplishing their goals. It's not just that vertical slice.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Well, I'm just going to throw this out. I know you were voted with John in your yearbook best hair. You still have great hair, so that's good. I'm going to go on. I'm going to stop embarrassing you, but thank you very much. Welcome. I'm now going to introduce our next guest, Antonio Tronic McDonald, the founder and the chief creative officer, director of Kiamp. 20 years you now have had this company, Kiamp. That's it's phenomenal, truly. Just how did that start? Because you do so many things.
First, let me just start by saying I'm honored to be on this in this discussion. I've already learned so much, and just to be part of this is great. So Camp started, 20 years ago, actually at MTV in the Honor Promos department at MTV. Was moonlighting while at MTV, working on things like Kanye West to the Wire music video and ABC dinner and movie interstitials. Started out with little things there, and we certainly embraced the culture early on, and I think that's something now that's really starting to be a popular, trendy thing, which has been ingrained from day one. And I always bring up MTV just because I feel like it just was so foundational in my development as a director, as a producer, as a writer, as an editor, as a shooter. Like, you wear many hats in the on-air promos department specifically. A lot of the things that I learned there, I'm still utilizing today. That's why I always bring it up, because you're working with challenge budgets at times, right? A bunch of deliverables that kind of need to get done in no time, right? And we still need high production value. We still need an award-winning type of content. So a lot of that stuff I learned early on, and I've carried over into the 20 years into my career.
I saw your Keep Joy Alive, which is for you guys who have seen or who haven't seen it. It's a PSA that is it's a message about colon cancer prevention. I'm sure you've saved lives with that thing. It's really quite extraordinary.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That one is very near and dear to us. I actually lost my grandmother to colon cancer years ago. So when the project came to us, we jumped all in. It was really tough trying to tackle that one. It just really showed the positive memories that you can remember of people and really not focus on a lot of the negative things. So we love that twist. We're all about twists at Camp. We love kind of like going down one road and thinking one thing and then having that turn of events basically that kind of goes in another direction. So the opportunity presented itself and we jumped at it. We did creative on that as well as the production on it. Thank you for mentioning it, because it really was something that was very near and dear to us.
I also saw one in your Instagram. You had Via della Spiga from Milan. I guess you're an art lover. You're a fashion guy. You love telling stories. You kind of love all of that stuff. Is Italy a specific place that you love, or?
Yeah, Italy is great. We love Italy. My wife and I went to Milan, and we really enjoyed it out there. We did a little bit of a tour of Europe. And then we also went to Amsterdam, which was great too. But Italy specifically, love the food. I'm a big Italian foodie. Yeah.
One last thing I want to say before we get to the questions, and I do appreciate you guys being patient. Moms of Black Boys United, I saw the Sun stories. You were the creative director, the EP, and then Tronic was the director, the editor. So are you two different personalities, or how does that happen?
That's so funny. No one's ever picked up on that, but that is kind of like the idea behind it, really, where I always say I'm an Aquarius and a Capricorn. Horoscope, not really too much into it, but I've learned over the years that one side, being the Capricorn, is more of the business minded. So that's the EP side of things, right? And then the Aquarius side is more the creative. So that's more the director, kind of thing, basically. So what it is kind of like a split personality. I try to take hats on and off and truly kind of ingrain myself in that task or whatever I'm working on at that particular moment. So if it's business, if I'm doing financial stuff, I'm all about that. But if it's creative, I don't want any, I don't want to deal with any business things, and I'm all about the creative. So, but yeah, no one's actually ever mentioned that. And that's exactly where it does stem from.
We're just going to dive into these questions. So I'm going to start with Joaquin. What did you find that you could do without during the pandemic?
The one thing I don't miss is the routine of going to the office every day, and in a way it's the obligation to do so. And I found myself going now by choice, and it's an amazing different experience, right? What I do miss a lot is the interaction with people. I'm like, in the creative process, there's a lot of things that float, that you point at. When you are in a room, like with different people throwing stuff, you can do that in a way that is much more, at least for me, interesting. You are more present. There's an energy there that I think in the Zooms gets all washed out, Getting the whole group into the same vibe on a Zoom is very difficult. I mean, maybe I can live without going to work to the office every day. I love to work, so I don't mind working, but going to the office. But I can't keep going without having creative sessions in person, you know?
Kim, what do you think? Is there something that you could do without?
The first year of the pandemic, I did pretty well without vegetables. I don't know that we killed it on the health front in our family. It's been a year of trying to kind of like fix all of those problems. And, you know, that's just sort of an adventure in and of itself. Man, I really agree with Joaquin in the value that maybe we've all come to appreciate of physical connection. I think we've all done really well, right? We've figured it out. We've come up with all kinds of hacks. We've made Zoom as valuable as it can be. I think the first thing I saw was when my kids went back to school after they had been home for over a year and sort of navigating online. And it wasn't just that they were learning more, but like there's like a spring in their step again and a spark in how they talked and how they engaged and their friendships and relationships and what they were learning. And I was sort of watching that longingly. And I know that, you know, as proud as I am of how everyone at Deutsche LA has done, we are going to unlock, you know, sort of the next level when we're able to find time to be together and just sort of like activate all the wonderful things that come from that sort of pushing and pulling that helps you get to like not just a great idea, but like the best idea. I'm missing doing that with our clients too. We have, you know, such wonderful, wonderful partners. And when we've had those moments over the last 2 years where it's felt safe and we've been able to all kind of be in the same room, really awesome things have happened. So it's certainly a priority to find and create those moments where I think we're able to just sort of like unlock more of what's possible.
What about you, Antonio?
Yeah, I would agree as well. I feel that, you know, that connection is certainly needed for sure. Although I do appreciate Zoom and being able to kind of connect with creatives all over the globe, which we've done. I think that's been amazing. I would say the one thing though that I could do without is the flying. I am not a big flyer. I love to travel, but I especially these days with the planes, right? I mean, I just do not look forward to getting back on a plane. And early on, I mean, we couldn't do it, you know? So I would definitely say flying would be number one for me for sure.
Okay. Yeah, with all the chaos in the air, I kind of agree with you, but I do like traveling. I love it. The power of words are more important than ever. What word or words gives you pause or grabs your attention in a positive or a negative way? And I think we'll just continue on with Joaquin. What do you think?
One word I see myself using more and more is alchemy. I don't know, I think you guys might feel the same way, but there's so much data, so much information, so much things thrown at you. And I see that like as a poison. And then the alchemy is how you use the poison to create the antidote, right? I admire more and more the people who is able to navigate those waters, and instead of getting, you know, blown away by and stuck, they find that thing, like it's diamonds in the middle of a mud in a way. And that for me is like maybe a talent that I admire on people who works with me more than anything else. And I think that's part of our challenge more and more, because you can't deal with everything that's thrown at you every day. So the power of doing that for me is kind of more and more important than ever.
What about you, Kim?
This came up yesterday in a meeting I was in. You know, someone suggested, you know, we shouldn't bring feelings to a fact fight. And maybe just to take the sort of like opposite position, I think sometimes, you know, as leaders, we do need to take a step back and bring like real objectivity to a situation. And if we have that observational distance, like that could be a big asset. You know, what's really working the best? What's truly getting in our way? What are the things that we can change to sort of unlock that or change that? I think that there's value sometimes in being able to sort of pull yourself back a bit.
I think in my, you know, a year now of doing this, that has been the one kind of consistent comment from leaders, is that they were able to be real and honest and show, that they are real humans and that they do sometimes cry and have to step back. I love that. Thank you very much.
Quickly, I just thought, as a journalist over the last year or so, like I've asked a lot of leaders about like empathy and things like that, which is obviously super important, but I think it does sometimes get forgotten that actually just talking with facts and being honest is equally important and like a trait of empathy itself. So I kind of like what you just said as well. I just thought I'd jump in and say that.
What about you, Antonio?
Agreed. Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's a simple word. And it goes back to my childhood, I think. Is can't. Can't can be something that, and it can be negative or positive, but I think that I've definitely kind of used that to really kind of fuel me and basically kind of help me along the years. And, during tough times, I think that can't is really something that, when you say you cannot do something or if someone imposes that on you, I feel that it really is the biggest fuel that you could add to, your arsenal.
It challenges you. Yeah.
Certainly. It's an interesting word for me. And when I saw the question, that's the first thing that came to mind.
It's not about not questioning. It's about questioning it. It's not that you can or can't do it. It's like you have to question the person that's saying that you can't do it. And if it's yourself, you should question yourself. I think I should have learned that. I wish I would have learned that at an early age.
I hear one time this definition of stress, that is when you say yes with your mouth and no with your brain, right? And I thought that was brilliant, because the effect on that, when you have to do it constantly because you can't say what you think, is really one of the biggest things that you suffer. And I love how you define it in can't. That feeling, and I think that's part of our job as leaders, make sure that no gets out, and then we see what we do with it. I think more like the 90s, where it's like, oh, it is like it is, No,
that is great. And thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, I think we're in an age now where it's like when you hear that, it's like even more reason to charge forward.
On to the next one. So outside of work, what is your calling? And describe the moment that you realized it. And I looked up the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition. It's a strong inner impulse towards a particular course of action, especially when accompanied by conviction of divine influence. Let's start with Kim this time.
This was like an interesting one for me, because I think that if I'm the most honest, I want to be a really great mom and a great wife and a great friend. And those are the things that are probably, I don't know if that meets your dictionary definition.
It does. Oh my, are you getting conviction of divine influence? How more relevant is that in being a great wife, a great friend, a great mom? Like, that's amazing.
I do think that work gives us a lot though. And, one of the cool things about working in this space is that you get to play in so many other categories and, kind of like do a deep dive and really become a semi-expert in technology, in finance, in automotive, in, food and wine, whatever. And I think in that respect, a career in advertising actually gives us a lot of fuel that can sort of feed all parts of ourselves.
What about you, Antonio? What is your calling? And describe the moment that you realized it.
For me, it's something that's somewhat connected to what we currently do, but yet still removed. It's a media learning center. It's been my calling outside of what we do here. And for me, like I grew up in Canarsie, Brooklyn, basically, and it's an interesting environment. I'll say that. You know what I mean? It's for many reasons, and I think that young people are very inspired early on, and obviously very malleable, right? And I think that exposing them to what we do as far as, production, writing, shooting, editing, I think there's so many facets of what we do in media that I think that it's a shame that there are a lot of kids, I call them like a media learning deserts, similar to food deserts, basically.
Is this Camp Cares?
This is Camp Cares, basically. This is Camp Cares. So thank you, yes. This is Camp Cares, and this is our big audacious goal, right? This is what we really want to do. From Brooklyn to Brazil, we want to create media learning centers that simply teach kids about media. You know what I mean? They're being marketed to every day. They're watching these shows and Nike's, selling them stuff and Apple selling them stuff, and they have no idea that they're being marketed to. I think, starting with a 12 or 13-year-old and really exposing them to a camera, to writing, I think is something that has always been interesting to me. And I think that as a human, it's a great disservice that I think that these young people in a lot of the inner cities are not exposed to this early on. And I find that that's something that is kind of a great travesty in the world.
Bravo to you. That's really, really extraordinary. So I love that. And I'm sure hopefully our viewers will be calling you, get ready. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to like be asking for your advice. But thank you. So Joaquin, what about you?
I have a more surface answer and a deeper answer. The surface will be like, I like to be a bridge. I like to connect things. I like to connect people, to connect points, to connect ideas. Like, I feel like I shine when I connect a person with a person and that something happens, you know? Like, on a deeper level for me is Buddhism. I study Buddhism for 20 years. Yes. I may say this and it gets a bit deep, but I recognize my repeatable patterns that I wanted to get out of me. Obviously, there's some that I'm still dealing with. But I can say that meditating and working on your brain works. And I do this metaphor. I used to feel like, you know, when you rent horses, that when you leave them alone, they go back to where you rent them by natural instinct.
Yes.
So I recognize that my mind, before I did all this work, used to go back naturally to a moment of worry or suffering, or, you know, like I was always worried about something. And obviously with life, you think you're gonna get the job and you're gonna be happy, and then you get the job and you feel the same, and you think you're gonna win the Grand Prix in Cannes, and then you win the Grand Prix in Cannes and you feel the same, and you think, and at some point, I can assure you that now, when I leave my horse, my rental horse alone, it goes to a place of happiness. And I achieved that out of 20 years of work. And I can prove that neuroplasticity works. Now everybody's talking about it, but there's a way where you can modify those patterns if you go to the origin of them and you work hard. When you are at your best version, then you can be so much better for everyone, as a father, as a leader, anything.
Tell me something. What is, if you were to, you know, somebody came up to you like myself and said, what was one thing that you would tell a young person who is young in the philosophy of Buddhism to do? Like, is there one thing that you would direct a person?
I mean, again, I think the marketing didn't help, because, you know, it's like everything can be, but the truth is meditation is kind of the key, because it's a way, the thing is that we have this thing that is called our minds, and we think we are our minds, and our minds is one other part. Like, you have a kidney, or you have a heart, or you have, so the mind has a lot of characteristics that nobody taught us, you know. They keep throwing thoughts all the time, but that doesn't mean that you are all those thoughts. It's a chemical thing. So then when you're able to separate from your mind and you recognize that you are your body, your soul, your mind, then you start observing, and you just pick the thoughts that you feel, you know,
are
work
relevant
for you.
Yeah.
And then the others disappeared. So I always said that you can stop worrying about anything right now. It's just a thought, right? So I think my first thing will be getting that distance and understanding that your brain is a part of you, and you need to understand it's a like wild horse that nobody told you how to ride. And that should be taught in schools. I think, I don't know in your case, but in Argentina, that everything about all people that, you know, cross the Andes, and you're like, I don't know, I would have loved for somebody to tell me how to ride my mind, you know?
Yes. I agree with you. It's so vital, because if you can somehow quieten your mind and just be, so many other things I'm sure can come out of that, as it is for you. So thank you. I really appreciate it. Next question is going to be from Addison.
And I do think this is a good follow-on from what Joaquin was just saying. What is one thing that someone important to you taught you when you were younger that you've taken with you to now and kind of still use today, whether it's in just everyday life or in work? We'll start with Antonio.
This one for me is definitely, it's my mom, and it's passed down from her dad. do unto others as you wish done unto you. And I can't tell you how that served me over the years. It's been amazing, but sometimes you don't get it reciprocated, right, in the way you'd want. But I feel like mentally it does something for you, like similar to what Joaquin was saying about Buddhism. I feel like it just puts you in a positive mindset. So I think that if you really go about life that way, I think good things happen to you. And when they don't, it's okay. It's fine, because that happened for a reason. I personally, I believe in God and in Jesus Christ. And I feel like everything is aligned and God does everything for a reason. You know, your steps are ordered. So that's been one that served me well over the years.
Cool. Thank you very much. And Kim, we'll go with you next.
My dad used to say there are people who make things happen, people who let things happen, and people who ask, what happened? That was like one of those big, and he sort of coached me to try to be in the first group. And I think that I do try to sort of do that. You know, when you show up in a situation, it's like, how can you be an active contributor? How can you help? How can you add value or meaning and true support? So I try to live by that.
Joaquin?
I think for special reasons, I want to mention my father because he's in a special moment. But it wasn't a line. I think he showed me that you can love your work and do it as you said before. What is the balance? Like when you enjoy something, you do it and you find the right time for everything. I think he taught me how to love work and how to enjoy life. Like you always enjoy life. And I don't know, obviously it took me years, but obviously when you have kids, you understand them so much more, right? And now he became one of my best friends over the years and working on the relationship. And I'm really thankful because these two things define me. First, like to search for that happiness if I wasn't feeling it. And second, to enjoy what I'm doing, which for me, I don't know if it happens to you guys, but a lot of times I'm like, why you are working in this industry? Like, if you don't love it, just go do something else. Like, right. I do believe that when you love this, then you go all the way, as you say, Antonio, and you transform cans in cans. But it's a tough industry. You have to love it. If not, I don't know. There's so many other things you can do with your life. I mean, that's the balance. Maybe he taught me the right balance between the two. So I'm very thankful for him.
So over the years, how has your leadership style evolved? And how would you describe it today? And we'll start with Kim.
I mean, I think that kind of to the point of trying to show up in a useful way in any context, you know, that remains to be true. I think, you know, one of the things that I've done as I became CEO, and I'm new in the role, it's only been a couple years, was to create more space for listening and for more voices. So we flattened the leadership structure. I have 10 direct reports. That's unusual. But, you know, it was very intentional. It was about ensuring that we were having a lot of thinking and ideas sort of informing the decision-making, you know, not just about how we might respond to a situation on a brand, but to decisions about how we were running the company. And I think that really creating time and space for listening, for understanding the next generation of talent, their needs, desires, what helps them to really succeed, has become really core to how I think about my job and my own successes.
What about you, Joaquin?
I think what I learned through the years, and I still learning, this never stops, but it's when to be horizontal and when to be vertical, right? I think there's this myth now that everything has to be horizontal, but also people working for you want you to make decisions sometimes, you know? So that is the balance. And it's funny because working on that, somebody told me to read Napoleon, something about Napoleon. And it's interesting because he has this theory that he will go horizontal and talk to everyone till the point that he makes a decision, and then he becomes vertical and everyone has to align to the decision because he literally went through the process of, and it was an interesting way to put it in a more clear pattern to me, because sometimes we do the opposite. We go vertical, we make a decision, and then we spend a lot of time going horizontal, trying to make everybody happy that the decision was made. And I thought the way Napoleon did it makes much more sense. So I think that's a bit of, I mean, I had the tendency to go more horizontal, vertical before, because, you know, it's hard. We are trained in this, they say it's one of the most stressful careers. Like they say, like flying a plane, and I don't know what is the second one, but we are very close to the. But the fact that there's always time issue. There's always no time to do everything. So, but I think after the years, I learned more how to navigate both better, and I keep learning. So you never reach that glorious place of being the perfect. I don't believe in the perfect imperfection at all. You know, that you just try to get better every day.
I love that. That's really great. Thank you. What about you, Antonio?
Yeah. I sure wish I knew Kim and Joaquin years ago. I was kind of thrusted in, seriously, I was really thrusted into the management side of things early on. And I probably did I broke rule 1 in management, which is, you know, don't micromanage. I was definitely very, very hands-on and try to control everything to a certain extent and kind of, you know, coax things into a certain place where I thought they should be. But I'm the complete opposite right now. I am so laid back and so hands off now that it's amazing. And sometimes people ask me to engage a little bit more now to that extent. So, but I really learned that early on, and it's actually detrimental to be that micro manager. And you know, that's something that I've kind of worked on each day. And as Joaquin said, working on it every day as well to get better.
I'm glad to know all of you guys right now. It's really just the perfect timing. So you guys are amazing. What is your daily routine, and how do you refine, or how have you refined it over the years? So what is your daily routine, and how have you refined it over the years? And I'm going to go ahead and go Kim again.
Okay. I mean, right now, I'm an early riser. So like that 5:45 alarm. I have an amazing husband who has the coffee ready, which is generous.
Wow.
But I'd say like my best days, I think it was like 3 outfit days. So like I wake up, I work for an hour, I train for an hour, and then I go to work. And then I have time to sort of like change into another outfit to go do something personal. Be that, you know, go to the beach with my daughters, or grab a bite with my husband, or meet up with a friend, or what have you. But just feeling like, you know, some days it's just the second chapter, the work chapter. But truly, you know, the best days, there's sort of that moment of like kind of taking care of yourself, taking care of the team at Deutsche LA, and then sort of taking care of the other people in our lives. So
is that a product of the pandemic, or is this something that you've have done over the past years?
That's been a thing for a while for me. And again, it doesn't always happen. Traveling less helps for sure. I used to be like 100 flights a year, so less time on a plane, you're like, you can kind of try to have more of those rituals and habits. It definitely doesn't happen every day though.
No, that's good. That's great. What about you, Antonio? I know, right? What about you, Antonio?
So aside from the obvious, I get up basically. I like to start with meditation, prayer, just kind of centering myself a little bit. I grab some hot tea. Love hot tea. I'm not a big coffee person, aside from early morning, really, really early mornings. I'm also an early riser too, Kim. But yeah, when I really have to be on and up early, then I got to have some coffee. But for the most part, it's hot tea, and then reading. You know, I love to just kind of understand what's going on, check out the trades, see what's going on, what I missed, you know, from the night before. And then, and on to the day.
What about you, Joaquin?
I choose this industry because you don't have many routines. Like I kind of love that, to go deep on cars, go deep on shampoos, go deep on that's kind of my main reason to love this, because I get bored very easily, and you don't want me bored. But yes, usually, I mean, if it's a small, like I meditate every morning, but the first thing I do, and I'm very grateful, is I live on the ocean, and I go every morning. The first thing I do when I wake up, I go to see the ocean. Beach. I mean, I'm on a channel, I'm not on the open ocean, but I sail my whole life. Water for me is super important. We kind of opened the office in Miami because it was the kind of the only place where you have the ocean and you can work in advertising at the same time. So that I would say is my most important routine to I mean, maybe because it makes me feel small and then my ego goes to the right place. I kind of like to see nature before I start my day, you know?
I'm going to have one last bonus question, and it's not on this. I just want to ask, what would you say to your 10-year-old self today?
My God, to my 10-year-old, that's a big one. No, I again, don't try to look for happiness outside of you. That will be my line.
I love that. That's a good one. You've got a couple of lines today. That's a good one.
Yeah.
What about you, Antonio?
One thing I forgot to add, Oliver, was I am now incorporating working out into my daily routine. I'm trying to do that. Shout out to Kim there. I am trying to do that.
Give me the recipe, Antonio, because I'm trying.
Trying is the key word, Joaquin, for sure.
I love it. Well, if there's any tennis players, I'll play tennis with you anytime.
Yeah, I think what I would say simply is to keep going, keep getting better. You know, simply put, keep going, keep getting better. You know, that's it. Keep going, keep getting better.
I love that. What about you, Kim?
I think I'd probably say, like, take it easy. You're doing better than you think.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm a pretty harsh self-critic. I really enjoyed listening to Joaquin's observations today. I think I've got some Buddhism readings I need to have later. But I think sometimes it's just a little bit of like, if we could all be a little more accepting and easier on ourselves and others, there's room for more goodness there.
I love that. Well, listen, I think you guys are all extraordinary and inspiring. And I think that you're absolutely, it's a perfect way to end, because I do think that we are all hard on ourselves. I think we're the worst, you know, our own worst critics. But the truth is if we talked more about who we were as people, rather than, you know, talk about what is right and wrong in terms of how we're doing our workday, and let people like accept you and come up to you and talk to you in a different way than just professionally as work people, and more friendly, I think that we would be less harsh on ourselves, because I think we are, and certainly you guys, what you've all accomplished is really extraordinary. I could go on. I didn't have to dig that deep to find out that you guys were inspiring, amazing, and I really thank you guys for, you know, joining both Great Guns USA and LBB for this. It's really an honor for us.
Thank you so much. It
Thank
was amazing.
You.